Hi, I'm Marcia Lehman, and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. Today we're pruning a saucer magnolia, which is a spring blooming shrub, which means we prune it after it finishes flowering. And we had to scout pretty hard, but we did find the remnants of one blossom still here. So if you have a saucer magnolia, you probably recognize this bloom. Frankly, I would love to prune this when it was without leaf so that I could see the structure. I did see this shrub during the winter, so it has good structure. And the good news about saucer magnolia is it really does not need a lot of pruning. So the focus is on taking out. We found some suckers near the bottom, so we'll start at the bottom and take out the suckers. We found a little bit of dead in the middle that we'll take out, but there's really not a lot of structural pruning that goes on with saucer magnolia. If that was necessary, it would have been done when it was a much younger plant. And as you can see from the size of this shrub compared to me, this is not a young shrub. So we're not doing a lot of structural pruning. We're going to clean up some suckers at the bottom. We found some upright water sprouts in the center that we'll take off. And then there is a little bit of dead in the center that we'll get. There's one or two spots on here where there is some injury. Can't tell if it was weather related or if it was insect related. We may or may not take that off, but we'll show you the injury. But again, really the 4Ds is what we're going after. We're not doing major pruning, we're just doing a touch-up job. I will comment, we are in a residential area, so you're likely to hear some cars passing by. We can't stop for every one of them, so just bear with us. Okay, so we're going to start at the base of the tree, and you can see some of these fairly long upright stems. And in fact, when I pull back here, I see that there is an older pruning cut, and that is probably what triggered some of these. So the first thing we're going to do is clean up these things that are growing straight up. And there's a whole bunch of them here around the base. And then, yes, there was a pruning cut here, which is then what triggered those three to grow. And in a tree like this saucer magnolia that has this shape, we really don't want these straight up stems. That is not part of its nature. And when we were checking the shrub before we started, there are some of those water sprouts on other branches, and almost every one of them is close to where there was a prior pruning cut. So I've got one around the back here that I can reach, more like came up from a sucker. And then I'm going to take my loppers and clean up. I don't know if you can see this or not. We'll see if we can zoom in. But clearly there were pruning cuts made here in the past because I've got some dead material. And this just needs to be cleaned up a bit. In fact, I may take the saw and cut this off. In addition to the road noise, don't be surprised if you hear a little bird noise, because it turns out there's a nest of wrens in this shrub. And the babies are fledging, so they've been chirping at us quite a bit. So you may also hear that in the background. I've come into the center of the plant, and we also have, generally where there was some prior pruning cut, we have some of these other stems that just want to grow straight up into the center of the shrub. And again, that's just not its nature. So we're going to take those off. That's just an example, but there I took off 3 or 4, and that keeps them. I can't quite reach that one, but there's another one there. We will continue to do that as we work through this shrub. The next thing I want to go after is the dead stuff. And right here in front of my face, I mean just leaning on it, you can hear it wants to crack. And when it does that, it's dead. So if you can get it with your fingers, take it with your fingers. If you just want a neater, cleaner cut, by all means use your pruners. So while you're in here doing one thing, look around and see, here's some more dead. And generally you're going to find this in the center of the shrub where it just wasn't getting enough sunlight. and it just gave up the ghost. Here's one, I follow it, but that just broke when I put a little pressure on it. But I will clean it up. I'm not going to leave a 2 or 3 inch stub. Now there are some spots in here, they're older, so I don't think it was the current homeowner who did it, but there are some older, what I would call poor pruning cuts, where they left a 2 or 3 inch stub. And when we find one of those, we want to clean that up as best we can too. Yep, there's a little more dead. Just bumped against it and it goes crack. So again, as we move through here, we'll clean up any of that dead that we find. And then we'll just keep working our way through the shrub. You don't need to watch me do the entire shrub, but you want to get rid of any suckers coming up at the bottom. We want to get rid of generally the water sprouts that tend to grow up straight through into the center. And often they're because of there was an injury or another prior pruning cut that triggered that growth. And then as you're going along, you're looking for the dead and cleaning up any other damage that you see. Now here where my hand is an example of an older, poor pruning cut. You can see this is dead, and I just put my hand on it and it broke right off. So I held it back up for you to see, but now what I really want to do is clean up that cut. I don't want to leave even that dead stump there. And right below it, where my hand is now, is another example. And when you've got that type of poor pruning cut, you do tend to get these new little shoots. And I'm taking these off so that you can see this is a 3 or 4 inch stub that was left, and all this out here is dead. And then there was just spindly little new growth on it. So we're going to take that off back here at the branch collar. And that's just another example of cleaning up an old pruning cut. So again, we're just going to keep going around. Anything that looks like a water sprout growing straight up through, any old bad pruning cuts, any dead material, we're going to take off. We are not doing structural pruning on this shrub. It is too well established and already has a good shape. We're just fixing it wherever it has a little problem, largely with dead disease, damaged, or dysfunctional, sticking out, going to hit somebody in the face. Okay, so we have finished cleaning up this saucer magnolia, and again, what we were taking out were suckers at the base, water sprouts coming up through, any dead material. We cleaned up a few old pruning cuts, but we did not make any structural changes to this. So to the person driving down the street, they're going to look at this shrub and not see anything different, and that's actually the sign of a good pruning job. We have a small pile of debris. If we can pan over here, this is the total of what we took out during this pruning. And for a shrub this size, that is not a whole lot of material. So again, saucer magnolia needs minimal pruning. You're really just cleaning up the 4Ds and those suckers and water sprouts. We hope you learned something today, and we thank you for joining us.